Welcome everyone. It's great to be with you. I'm gonna do similar to what we did last week, and hopefully Ben will be here with me too in a little bit. He's a what would be K-8 principal in Pella, Iowa. I didn't introduce him properly last time. I just had him wave at you. But if he joins us, and then he's going to actually lead you next week. But I'm really excited for this week's conversation. And so we'll do similar, where I'll do a little bit of presentation. We'll put you in breakout room and then have conversation with each other. And really, as you think about it, the encouragement is to use this book, to use this time to start conversations and to reignite thoughts about what we do as educators and what we do as school leaders. And I think today is one of my favorite conversations, not to say that it's the favorite, it's one of my favorite from this book, because I think, and I'll share a little bit about this as we go. I think and we'll highlight the part about building cathedrals as a really interesting concept that will kind of keep us going through. But I'm going to share my screen. Let me do this. All right, hold on. I got to get to the right place. I'm not on my normal system at home, so I'm traveling today. So let me get this right. And here we go. And I got to make sure I share sound. There we go. And so I really, really love this conversation on purpose. And I think in the book, we get to it, but I think one of the things that we don't do is we don't make purpose explicit. Like, we don't talk about the call that the Lord's put on our lives as school leaders, like what our individual purpose is. We don't talk about that enough. Like, why do you do what you do? The second thing that we don't do very well as schools is we talk about Christ-centered education, but that can look so different from school to school, context to context, we don't always, explain or have conversations about what does that mean at our school and for our community and for our students. And so it's always fun for me to enter into these conversations and help us think through, like, what does purpose really mean? But before we get there, we want to make sure we just go through the norms real quick. I think for me a little bit, today as we go through, we talk about these. We want to start at the cross to take away judgment, so that then in the busyness and in our work and in our hopes and desires, but also in our insecurities and our sinfulness, we can be present with the Lord, but be present with each other. That's the beauty of this time together, that virtually we get to be present. And so that's where I love the breakout rooms and the engagement opportunities. And in that presence, asking questions before we give feedback so we can learn and improve together. It doesn't mean we don't give feedback. It means we ask questions to get clarity, to create curiosity, to dig deeper with people. And then again, take a look. I like asking this question about Edify's core values for you is, as you think about it, and you could put it in the chat or you can just think about it for yourself, is which of these do you need to just kind of focus in on for this next hour? And what might it look like to just say, hey, you know what, of the Edify, this is the one that I need to focus in on. And it's different for everybody. I think last time it was really fun to see the be joyful, be thankful, and have fun. I've never seen that in any Christian organization's core values, especially in the United States. We don't talk about joy. We can talk about gratitude, but we don't talk about it in this way of be joyful, be thankful, and have fun. So I'm still a little bit with the Edify group, a little fixated on that personally for myself, but find the one for you that matters for you today. And again, I just want to reintroduce who we are at Baylor Center for School Leadership in Waco, Texas, at Baylor University. And really this idea of equipping Christian leaders, so Christian school leaders, educators, to help students become all they were created to be. And that's really what we want to do with each other. Our goal, we're not done. We're not done. So, who is God made us to be, and who is He making us to be? That's the beautiful part of creation. It's not necessarily finished. There's the act of creation, but then there's the ongoing work of God's creation in our life and really sanctification when we think about it. And that's what we love to see in students' lives. And so in the book, there's a little bit of, as we start in this, there's this little bit of a quote that we pull out. And it says, in Bold Moves for Schools, the authors propose that we become educators through the notion of a calling. It might be the joy in seeing people learn. It might be a commitment to helping shape the future, or a passion for contributing to a learning community. Making moves to improve the quality of learning for the present day learner ignites joy and is essential to progress. So when we think about this, one of the general questions that I want you to start thinking about today is, and that's the thing, is about this book. It's Flourishing Together, but part of it is we want to think about our personal flourishing, and we can't flourish outside of community. But if we're going to talk about purpose, and different theologians will call it different things, vocation, calling, whatever you might want to call it, is begin to think about, why do you do what you do? What brings the joy in your work? Why did you start in it? There's this great idea in even in scripture where Paul encourages people, don't forget the joy of your salvation, right? Don't forget the day of that joy, that salvation, because you remember the joy. And it's similar to our callings. It's not the same, because salvation is totally different than calling. But that idea that, you know what, when we know why we do what we do, and when we remember that moment where, or the time period over which we were called into it, it makes a huge difference on who we are and how we work, because then that leads to flourishing. If we understand our personal call, then we can enter into the corporate call with others in this work that we get to do. And this is really the quote, and I love this, and it'll be translated different ways in the English. I always love to see how these things are translated in people's in native languages, and in their original languages. But in the English, it can be translated a couple different ways. I came that they may have life and have it to the full. And this is where that fullness of life. I think about Psalm 23 oftentimes, the banquet table, my cup runneth over. It's so full that we can't contain it. And that's the idea of flourishing, that it is so full that we can't contain it. And so that's this idea that when you get into it, we talked about some of these general concepts last week, and the book mentions this idea of Zoe. In the Greek, it means life, and it means life to the full, abundant life. That's maybe an older, a term I grew up with as a kid. We would read the King James Bible, and it would talk about abundant life. And that's that idea of overflowing, fullness, abundance. There's more than just I can contain. And that's, I think, the thing, that if we give ourselves a vision of flourishing, a vision of life with Christ, it's a life of abundance. We may not, in some ways, when we look at the world, we may not think we have much, but when we look at life with Christ, we see the abundance of what He's given to us in this life with Him. And so it's this interesting kind of concept as you get into it. And so here's the question. I'm going to put you in your first breakout room, and it'll take me a little bit of time to get there. So take a look at this. And this is this is the discussion question for your first breakout room. Where have you seen abundant Zoe? Where have you seen abundant life at your school this week? So where, or last week, I mean, it's early in the week, it's Tuesday, so maybe Monday, Tuesday. But in the last week or so, where have you seen abundance, fullness, flourishing, this concept of Zoe at your school this week? And I want to give you some time to share stories with each other and really to encourage each other. So give me a second. Keep an eye on that question real quick, and then I'm going to put you in breakout rooms as we go. All right, rooms. Let's see. Let's do this, and then yeah, perfect. All right, and all right, I'm going to send you to rooms, and then I'm going to stop sharing screen. But go tell a story about where you've seen fullness of life, flourishing, or abundance in your school recently. Okay, so go and enjoy that conversation, and then we'll bring you back, and let's make sure everybody gets there.
Okay, so Eric, which room can I join in?
You can pick which. I kept you out because I wanted to see how people kind of got into their rooms. So if you see a room you want to jump into, you pick it and go.
All right.
And then I'll bring us back in about 7 minutes.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hello,
Auntie
Auntie
Debbie.
Phyllis. Yes, Auntie.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah. So the question on how you have seen. Yeah. Can we hear from you and also Uncle Patrick?
Yes, I couldn't join early, so the moment I joined, I just saw that I've been sent to room 2. I was just telling grandmother, hey, I'm struggling though, I'm in room 2 and I don't know what is happening.
Okay, let's hear from Uncle Patrick. He was on, so let's hear from him. Hello, Uncle Patrick. Please, can you unmute and share with us?
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes. Even though I joined early, but I think I would be glad if you can really, the abundance the way. The question is, how do we see abundance the way in our school this week, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean,
live.
Yeah. I'm just struggling to think of what exactly it is. So if you can share with us briefly before we can also contribute something. Anyway, that's my thought though.
Oh, okay. So the abundant, the way he was explaining, has to do with abundant life. So something you've seen in terms of flourishing.
Yeah.
So flourishing for this week that you have observed in your school. So maybe you've seen a child give their life to Christ, or you have improved. I don't want to mention the things, but maybe your business, the business bit of the school, you've seen some life in something. So yeah, basically that's what he's asking, flourishing.
Yeah, I got it. Just that I want to be very sure. Okay. Well, for the week is quite young today, but we can answer this afternoon. What I can share is during lunchtime, we have some 3 kids who are really always misbehaving in school. So we recommend them for guidance and counseling. After that, the guidance and counseling coordinator sent them to my office, and I had a nice time with them, shared a word with them. And then the response I'm getting looks like they're having a transformation of life. I mean, they see that they realize what they were doing wasn't right. So I'm beginning to notice some change in them. And then the response that I'm getting from them tells me that I think they started flourishing right from here. I mean, you could see an abundance away in them, and they're beginning to experience abundance away. Let me put it that way. So today, that's what I can share with the little experience I have with the kids, because they are not only in for academic work, but they're also in to be transformed. So having counseled them and shared the word with them, I realized that their response is quite positive. And I believe that's the beginning.
Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Patrick. Auntie Solace.
Yes, Auntie.
Yes. So before you joined, we were talking about the first chapter. You know, the chapter is about purpose. So he picked it from the angle of you knowing your purpose and knowing what God has called you to. So I think he used the scripture that says that um, for this purpose, I have come that I will give life. So to Jesus, that was his purpose for flourishing. That was his purpose on earth. Amidst everything he did, he was brought in for one thing, that he will give life and give it abundantly. So that's what he spoke to. Then he came up with the flourishing, the Zoe. So now we are looking at this week, at least practically, what Zoe simply means life. So what abundant life have you seen in your work, even though the week is young?
Okay, so what I have realized, and actually it happened this afternoon, a time came where when teachers are even doing the wrong thing, the others try to cover them up. But there's something happened between two teachers, and then the other one wasn't happy. So she immediately came to me to lodge a complaint. And when I invited the other, while he was explaining his part of the story, he in turn told me that he met one teacher. I mean, we are having a midterm test, who has asked some students to mark the scripts. And so he told the teacher that it shouldn't be so. You don't have to do that. Because if you ask the student to do that, he is going to make an error. So it's either you do it yourself or you check the student doing it, but don't leave it for the student. So as he told, I said, okay, so now you've seen that this, I've been saying it, and it's good you went ahead to correct the person. You didn't, overlook it and then allow things to be, but he went ahead to correct the person to do the right thing. So I have seen that there has been some sort of truthfulness and then some sort of trustworthy people amongst the teachers we are working with.
We bless God. Thank you for me, these are testimonies of all the effort we are putting in our school. And I know that God would water them like a plant for us. It just starts small, like the picture he showed.
There we go. I love it when people come back at the end. Deborah, was there something that you heard that you'd be willing to share with everyone?
Yeah, so I was in the group with Solace and Patrick, and Solace was sharing with us a transformation that has happened in her school this week. So she had two teachers having some disagreements about a matter. But at the end of the day, she realized the second teacher was correcting. So the second teacher was kind of playing the role that she would have played in correcting the other teacher to do the right thing. And for her, seeing that transformation, that life of flourishing, dwindling down from one teacher to the other, is a testimony for her. Yes.
That is great. And that's the abundant life of great leaders too. One of the things that we see is that they leave room for others to take what they've learned from you as the leader and to share that with others. That's a great story. I love that. One of the things that I want to make sure we do, and we put you in breakout rooms to have quick conversations. These aren't long ones. But one of the things is when I go visit a school, this is now a question I ask of a leader, because a lot of times when I visit a school, the leader wants to show me all the great things that are happening or all the bad things that are happening that they want me to fix. And so I'm like, show me something that is an example of Zoe life or abundant life or fullness of life. Like, show me where the joy is. And there is this place, like, or tell me that story. that happened recently. And so tell each other stories, ask these questions of each other as you go, because it reminds us to focus in on some of this. And so as we go into these, and hopefully, as these are questions for us as professionals that allow us to think about, the good work that we get to do as school leaders and how we can consistently reimagine that good work as we go. And just a reminder as we go back, right, back and forth, and what we look at, flourishing students is our heart and our desire. Flourishing educators support that. And then and that's who we are, but we get to also build flourishing schools and systems, and that's where Edify is a part of it, and that's where your school is part of it, that get to support that down. And then these are the domains that we'll talk about as we go. But purpose, a clear understanding of shared purpose, why we are together at school. I don't think we answer this enough. Why are we here together? And so if we focus in on it, sets us on the path to flourishing. A common purpose helps us to be unified around clear goals and to work toward a greater good to which we aspire together. And one of the things that I think we as often as leaders take for granted is we take for granted that everyone's purpose is the same interpretation as my purpose. So my school's mission statement, and we'll talk about mission statements, we'll talk about that, but this is why we're here, but it's in the conversations that we have together with our students, our families, with our colleagues, that lead us to clarify, what does it mean for us? And I'm just going to take a general statement, to be a Christ-centered school. Why are we together doing this work that we feel personally that matters, and that you as leaders would choose to lead it? And so it's inviting people into those conversations, because in our collective leadership research, what leads to greater student outcomes are these 7 conditions on the left. The very first condition is what we called, it'd be similar to purpose, it's shared vision and strategy. So that's what we call it in our research, shared vision and strategy. One of the things that we found about Christian schools in particular in the United States, and I can't say this would be true in your context, but Christian schools in the United States versus their non-Christian counterparts, actually the shared vision and strategy comes back in the research lower than it does in the non-Christian counterparts. And I think one of the biggest mistakes is that we have a vision for leadership, that we place too much of the pressure of the vision and strategy on the leader. So it becomes not shared, it becomes the leader's vision and strategy. And so in the United States, that's in the Christian school community, that's one of the big problems we have. And so how can we invite people in to the compelling vision and strategy that we might have and share it, because we know that is the primary driver to getting greater student outcomes. And so keep that as part of the conversation. And in the research that we do, and in the research that John writes about in one of his books, he talks about we need strong leadership from teachers, not leadership of teachers. Our schools should be teacher powered, not teacher proofed. For collective leadership to flourish, we need leadership from administrators, leadership that is strong enough to support the school's mission, but of which has to be led by teachers. So it's this really interesting idea. And one of the things that we're going to come back to is something we didn't get to last week, is called being a catalyst leadership. And we're going to do that later and have that conversation again. But it's that amazing part as a leader. How can you amplify or empower your teachers and the educators around you to lead? And how do you create the conversations so that there is a sense of shared vision and shared leadership in that? And on page 26, Andy and Lynn say this: where purpose is absent, confused, crowded out by external pressures, or silenced by fears within, progress becomes stilted. Priorities are forgotten, and communities grow fatigued and fragmented. Purpose can never be reduced to a slick mission statement or a well-shot corporate. And this is an American thing. We do a lot of, videos at our schools, or a well-shot corporate film. Rather, it is revealed in the ups and downs, twists and turns, joys and pains, and the order and the chaos of life itself. And one of the things that I would encourage you is, as you think about this, is once you feel as a leader like you've arrived at your purpose, my guess is the Lord is going to change something. He's going to bring new people into your community. He's going to bring new educators. He's going to bring new parents. He's going to bring new families. He might even change the community in which you're serving. I worked at a school at one point in time that was serving a very poor community. But partly because of the success of the school, but then partly because of the change in the neighborhood, it didn't become a wealthy neighborhood, but it became a very different neighborhood than just a poor neighborhood. And it became a vibrant neighborhood. And it was really interesting to be at that school and say, we thought our purpose was this, but our neighborhood and our community has changed. So what do we do? Do we move to where our purpose was set to serve the poor? Or is it to stay here and to adjust and to think about a multidimensional purpose? And so it led to a really interesting conversation about moving the school or staying. So it was really interesting as you get that. But I love this last part again, and I'm going to read it again. It is revealed. So purpose is revealed in the ups and downs, twists and turns, joys and pains, and the order and the chaos of life itself. In the pain and in that conflict that Deborah talked about with Solace, is in that conflict, or in that conversation, what happened was we see both the conflict, but then the resolution. And so it's the good and the bad as we look at it. So purpose is far less about what is written on our walls than which characterizes students and adults' daily experiences of our school community. So when you visit schools, or when you walk your school, look less at the walls and look more at the experiences. How are people interacting? What happens when there's setback? What do we do? How do we treat each other? I've been in some Christian schools that they radiate goodness and fullness of life. I've been at other Christian schools that they're miserable. And part of it is they've lost their purpose. Part of it is because they get focused in on the work rather than oftentimes, why do we do the work? The work is important, but we need to know why we do it as we go. And so this is some of what you can look at, and I'll share this because this can get a little small, but how is purpose lived out? How do we see it in the experiences at a school? And so the practicalities, we see it in the scheduling, the budget, the staffing, the resources, the policies, operational management. In the United States and in the community that I work in, it would be considered a poor school, or a school that doesn't have as many resources. So for us, in the practicalities, a friend of mine leads it, and I'm on his board in support of it. We've gotten really, really, really creative with the scheduling, with the budgeting, with the use of the resources that we have. We don't look at what we lack. We look at what we have and how we can build on it. We look at the abundance and say, hey, how can God take what we have and do more with it? Us getting creative in some really cool ways. And it's brought amazing life to the school. And so in those practicalities, even in things that we look at sometimes where we're trying to save money or trying to save resources or whatever it might be, it's sometimes we lose sight of what we actually have and how we can invest it. Leadership. Setting direction and living the culture with integrity. Can't tell you how often I see in schools that the leader will say one thing, but doesn't live it out. Students, okay, including how do you treat the marginalized and vulnerable so we can flourish together. So when you look at student life, it goes back to this comment that we do in our book, Just Teaching. It's not teaching some students. It's not even teaching all students, but it's seeing each student. And do we see our students? And is that exemplified in our most marginalized and vulnerable students? Curriculum and pedagogy. What do you teach and how do you teach it? Do you teach it with an abundance where students can learn it, where they can understand it, where they can grow and get better? Do we have that abundant mindset when it comes to learning and how we have them learn and what we have them learn? And then what are your organization's rhythms, practices, rituals? How do we celebrate? How do we do our work? What are those rhythms and practices? Do they become mundane or do they become life-giving? Is our school in our rhythms? One of the things, rhythms and routines are really, really important for the flourishing and the abundance of students or the fullness of students in their lives, because we know that students rely on rhythms so that then they can take the risks for learning. And so do our rhythms become boring habits, or do they become life-giving practices that create safety, security, so that then I can learn, grow, and take risks? Okay. And so as we look at it, here's the next discussion question. And I'm going to give you a little bit of time to have these conversations, and you can go in and out. You don't have to answer number one, then number two. You can answer them both together, or you can talk about number two. You can look at these things. But what is your school's purpose? Vision, mission, vision. We shared Edify's core values, right? What is your school's mission? What is your purpose? What gives it life? What do people talk about? It doesn't have to be the stated purpose, but what gives it life? And then number two, where and how do we live out that purpose? Where would we see it in the experiences of the school? So as you shared some stories of where you saw it, where do you see it in fullness and abundance at your school? Is it in the classroom? Is it in the schedule? Do you have a unique curriculum and pedagogy that it gives life to learning and to students? Is it in celebrations? Is it in the way that you welcome the community into your school, or where you get out into your community and serve it and get connected to it? Is it in leadership? Do you have a leadership abundance where there's a fullness of these types of things? So I'm going to leave this here. Give me a moment while I do breakout rooms, and you can kind of take a look at it, but prepare your mind and prepare your heart to share some of this with your friends and with your colleagues. All right, let me see if I get this right. Okay, we've got 3 rooms. Perfect. Here we go. I'm going to send you. All right, go pick that room. Talk about your purpose at your school, and then the experiences, the work of your school. Where do you see that fullness, that purpose being lived out the most? All right, Deborah, you get to pick a room. So it looks like room 2 is pretty full. I can add a room next time where we end. All right. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Oh, so I mentioned I'll join room 3 because they are 5. 5 in
Okay.
there.
Well, yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. And I'll make sure everybody here has the opportunity to get to a room.
Okay.
To produce is to provide Christ-centered education to the students so that they develop holistically, academically, socially, and then spiritually, yes, in Christian ways. So we have put in place measures that will ensure that we develop these things academically. We try as much as possible to hire trained teachers, and then we monitor, we engage in training, various training, so that we produce good results. Then also, in terms of their spirituality, Christianity, we have a transformation officer who is like the chaplain in the school, supported by a team, including some of the students. And then he's come out with his plan and everything. Not that he's not the only person, but as a team, they've come out with thing on discipleship. And there also we are doing it. Our worship has improved. And then we also have discipleship, where sometimes the children lead, other times the teachers also lead and guide the children. So all these things, and then in terms of social matters too, we talk about etiquette and other things. We address some issues at assembly with the children. So I think for Ahinima, I don't want to take all the time. So for Ahinima, this is what we are doing. Thank you. No.
Hello, Uncle Victor, can we hear from you? Uncle Eben, you've given us thumbs up, but we want to hear from you too.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, this is Ebenezer from God Almighty.
Okay.
I would like to share about the school mission and our vision. For instance, the school mission is to inculcate God-fearing into the children. Inculcating God-fearing into the children, and also the vision is to train the heart of the child, the mind, and the body of the child. So with our school mission and vision, we do organize Christian emphasis most at times in the term. We gather at one place to educate the children based on Christ likes and also the behavior that they are supposed to portray in the school. So I think the little I can share now is this. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Can we have, I don't know, FKT? I don't know whether it's a lady. It's FKT. If you could rename yourself, it will really, or write your name in the chat box for me, the name and your school. We'll be very grateful. But can you share with us what you're also doing in your school? Hello, this is supposed to be a breakout session where we share ideas and what we are actually doing in terms of our purpose in the school. So the question he's asking us is, the first question is in relation to our mission and vision, how it's being lived out. Because at the end of the day, he was saying that we could have the mission statement pasted on the wall, but people are not actually living it out. So what are some of the things we are doing in our schools to really live out the mission statement? And he also mentioned the fact that the drivers of this mission statement, our mission and vision, is the teachers. So it's the total behavior of the school that we are referring to. So can we share? I've seen Shali. Shali, if you could, Shali and FKT, if we could have your real names and the name of your school, help us to note and address you properly. But can you unmute and share with us? We have some few minutes more to go. Hey, I hope you can hear me. Hello.
I can hear you.
Ah, okay.
Hello. Hi, Charlie, please go on.
Okay, I'm from Midi Montessori Learning Center, and our vision is to inspire in each child the passion for Christ-likeness and academic excellence. So how we live it out is that even on our timetable, we have discipleship so that we intentionally help the children with our Christ-like behavior. And there's also worship. And then in our curriculum, we have our normal routine for academic work. So we make sure that even with the tracking, with our Christ-likeness bit, we still track with the Christ-likeness chart where students are rewarded, and based on that, at the end of the day, they know which group did the best. So there's just not for competition's sake, but to track how we are all going in line with our vision. I think that's a little I can share on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You had a very good point to share with us. I think we are almost close enough for the breakout session. Meet you all in the main session soon.
One of the things I want to realize is that we want to make sure that I think the last breakout room is really the one where I want you to spend time talking about. And we mentioned this, and in the book, they talk about building cathedrals, partly because Andy Wolf is English, and the English like to talk about their cathedrals. But he also went to Durham University, which this is a picture of Durham Cathedral. It's a magnificent place. It's a beautiful place. And I've had the opportunity to visit it, and it's stunning. And one of the things that when we look at cathedrals and building cathedrals, and they mention in the book, is that it's built by, it's an architect designs it, but then a community builds it, and you have professionals that work on it. And oftentimes when you think about these cathedrals, it took decades. And so the architect of Durham Cathedral actually never saw it completed. I just had the opportunity today to do a tour around the outside of Notre Dame in Paris. It's a long story why I'm in Paris, but it's pretty exciting. And one of the things that they said is it took 180 years from start to finish. But then even now it continues to remain under construction and is actually getting rebuilt right now as we go. But Walter Brueggemann, a theologian, says this: the prophet engages in future fantasy. The prophet does not ask if the vision can be implemented, for questions of implementation are of no consequence until the vision can be imagined. The imagination must come before the implementation. Our culture is competent to implement almost anything and to imagine almost nothing. I see this a lot where I live in San Jose, California, the center of the tech industry in the world, where we are very good at implementing things, but not imagining new things and imagining a better world and imagining a beautiful world. And it is, as we think about these cathedrals and these places of worship, this idea of, you know what, abundance towards God because of his abundance towards us, and that the building itself is a reflection of worship in its own right. And there is this like interesting, you know, Angela Duckworth, if you've ever read her book or seen her famous speech, she talks about 3 bricklayers. And then, you know, 3 bricklayers are asked, what are you doing? The first says, I'm laying bricks. The second says, I am building a church. And the third says, I am building the house of God. The first bricklayer has a job. The second has a career. The third has a calling. So this is still kind of that idea, that back and forth between our own personal calling and that prophetic imagination. Do we see it that we're building something bigger than ourselves in our work that we get to do every day? And one of the things I want to do is I want to make sure I share this video before we go into conversation, because this is a video of a man in Spain, and there'll be subtitles because he'll speak Spanish, who is building his own personal cathedral, his own personal literal cathedral. I want you to see some of the beautiful things from this conversation and the beauty of who this man is, but then also look at like what he's missing out on by the way he's approaching building this cathedral. I think there's great beauty in here, but it's not the fullness of what we would talk about in building a cathedral. So here we go.
Cuando empecé a construir esta catedral, todos los corrillos, era eso, que yo estaba loco. Y no se creían que yo iba a ser tan constante, y bueno, les estoy dando como un revés a la gente. Y eso me agrada porque para que vean que cuando un hombre confía en Cristo, he nacido en el año 1925 y llevo construyendo esta catedral 53 años. Yo cuando empecé a empezar la catedral era joven, ahora ya mayor, porque a las 9 ya es mucho. No he estudiado la arquitectura, soy un labrador. Tenemos ahí salones parroquiales, los claustros, tengo un baptisterio, que es en la entrada, esa cúpula y la crista, claro, con una escalinata que no la hay en Madrid, esa. No quiero materia, dinero nada. Y entonces lo he desechado, incluso en mi casa. Es imposible que yo termine la catedral en vida, porque queda muchísimo que hacer. Pues la esperanza que tengo yo de esta catedral, cuando yo me muera, pues se lo dejo en las manos divinas. Yo no sé dónde llegará, ¿eh? El ángel se carga de ello, ¿eh? A mí me gustaría que me enterraran en esta catedral, que son muy importantes, ¿eh? Para mí.
So, I mean, it's this beautiful picture of one man's call to build a cathedral, and you see the beauty in it. I hope you also see some of the limitations, and we could talk about those limitations. But here's a bunch of questions I want you just to think about, and talk about in your breakout rooms, whatever draws your attention. I'm gonna make smaller breakout rooms this time. But what kind of cathedral do you dream of building? What is helping you to see that kind of future? And you could spend a whole time on that, but what holds back your imagination? Who fuels your imagination? How effective is your team right now in bringing that dream to life? How can colleagues encourage one another in your school to focus on this bigger picture, focus on this purpose amidst the daily pressures? And what gets in the way of this imagination and this beauty of building a cathedral. So I'm going to leave that up for a second. You can look at all those questions, but you know what? Share what you're interested in, because I'm only going to bring it back for about 30 seconds. And then I'm going to just share a real simple closeout when we come back at the end. So I'm going to recreate rooms. Let me do this. I think. Yeah, let me do this. I'm going to do smaller rooms so you have a little bit more time to talk to each other. All right, here we go. Open all rooms. Let me stop share and then make sure everybody gets there. Enjoy just a brief part of the conversation. You could talk about the video as well, too. What you found beautiful or what you found was limiting. Let's see. Let's make sure everybody gets to a room because we made them smaller. So we want to make sure everybody has a partner, a talking partner. All right. Yeah, even if you only have one talking partner. Deborah, how about you go to room 5? Oh, no,
Okay.
they have a talking partner. Hold on. Let's just make sure. Let's see. Nobody in room 6 yet. Everybody else has a talking partner, which is great. All right, Deborah, go to where you want to go. Oh, go to room 6, Deborah, because Evan will use a talking partner.
Yes. Okay. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, sir. So can you share with
Hello.
us?
You need to help me out with what the prompt was. There was a parent who just walked into my office, so I missed what the prompt was. Kindly help me with the prompt, then I could make some contribution.
Okay, so there's a whole list of things he wanted us to, so he wanted everyone to pick one of them. So based on, so it could be from the video that we watched, what you picked from that video about the building of cathedral. What cathedral are you building? What challenges do you foresee? There's also how you think your teachers could, or the colleagues in your school can work towards building the cathedral.
Yeah, so I think I saw that prompt. Yes, we
can
try as much as
process it.
possible to. I'm from Charles.
Okay, please
I'm
enter
listening,
that.
please.
Please, can you type your name in the chat box for me? Your
I've
name.
done that already.
Okay. So I think Eben had his hand up. Let's have Eben speak, and when he's done, I'm sure it will help you to put your ideas in perspective too. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Yes, we can hear
Hello.
you.
Oh, okay. Watching the video, I realized that the man started building the cathedral for a very long time. And I saw, or I can see that he was building alone. No one was with him. Maybe something he should have done, some ideas that the man would have used. So even the cathedral, as at now, he is not able to complete. And also he has a lot to do. So bringing down to our field of work as school leaders, I think our institution becomes our cathedral that we are building. So the teachers here or the people that we are working with, we should involve them, like seek for ideas, and also we work together, we collaborate and work together. When we have to give each and everyone the equal respect that we want to get, so that the cathedral, which is our school, our institution, can flourish. But I think the little I can share now is this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's such a valid point. Yes, and for me, I fear for the man, because from how it looks, he would definitely not finish. Yes, and he had so much, I don't know, I don't want to say ego, but I don't need your money. I mean,
like
his
pride.
attitude, yes, attitude towards it. The important thing for him is that when he died, they should bury him in the cathedral.
The cathedral.
Yeah, it feels as if he's doing God a favor by choosing to dedicate all his life. Probably God has other tasks for him to do. But please go ahead.
I said it's not supposed to be so. Yeah, if you are doing something, you need to collaborate with people so that you get ideas from people how to go about it. People can tell you do it this way or do it that way, so that at the end of the day, we all celebrate together.
So connecting it to the school, it means even for the school in itself, the foundations, the visions, the ideas. You see, he mentioned about imagination. So we would have to create that imagination first and put everyone in their role so that we'll be able to really attain the purpose for it. Okay, so Christopher, our time is up. We have some few seconds. I don't know if you want to jump in the conversation.
I just wanted to know if the slides will be shared.
Oh yes, I'm recording the session, so I'll share it on the Champion School platform.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I see you all in the main session.
I know I know we don't ever have enough time. I feel like these times go quickly and fast, for me at least. But one of the things I was thinking about today, I have the opportunity, like I said, to be in Paris, which I could have never imagined or expected, in my lifetime. But, had the opportunity to step into this chapel that was built in the 1200s by the King of France. And it only took 12 years compared to Notre Dame, which took 180 years. It's only a chapel. It's not a cathedral. And one of the things I was struck by as we think about this, and I'll share that video with you so you can watch it again, because there's other things that I pick up along the way, is one of the things that I think about when I see buildings like this. And when I think about our work might not be buildings, it's students, it's the school, it's the community. It's even like Deborah prayed last week about our country, your country. And we think about those sorts of cathedrals, but the imagination to build something new, to create something new, and ultimately at the end of it, to make it beautiful so that others can enjoy it and that others are drawn to Christ because of it. And so that's my closing reflection for you. I'll have some information for you. I'll pray for you before you go. I'll always find it an honor. And Ben will be leading next week because I won't be available. I'll be at an 11-year-old's birthday party. And so I'm excited for that. But make your work beautiful. And at the same time that you're making it beautiful, enjoy it. Enjoy the abundance of what God has given you, even though it may not look like this. It'll be beautiful in a different way. So let me pray. Lord, I thank you for these moments. I thank you for these leaders. I ask that you bless them, that you lead them, that you guide them, that their imagination and their heart might soar because of their vision for what you've called them to do in their schools. And Lord, may they invite others into this great mission and this great purpose that we do as school leaders. We love you and we thank you in your name. Amen. All right.
Amen.
Amen.
God bless
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Amen.
And bye-bye.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank
God
you,
bless
Eric.
you too.
Thank
It's
you.
great. It's great that I get to join halfway through today's session. I'm really excited. I couldn't join last week. So thank you, Eric, for the time. And thank you all school leaders for joining. It's a great joy.
Thank you, Florentine,
Thank
for
you.
letting me be a part of this. This is
Thank
amazing.
you.